You're tuned into TobiTalks, episode 33, bringing conversation of diversity to nursing with Nurse Georgie. You know the two hot words everyone is talking about, right? Diversity and inclusion. Diversity and inclusion. What? Diversity and inclusion. Diversity and inclusion. Get the beats. I'm clearly in my own little world, y'all, but let's be honest, that is the hottest topic going on right now, diversity and inclusion. But what does that really look like, especially for us in the healthcare field and especially for us as nurses? I mean, we can talk about it all day long, but what actions are we truly putting in place to make sure we are diversifying our environment and including everyone? Well, my guest today, this Latino on the fire sangria, Nurse Georgie, is here to talk about all of that. And not only talk about what diversity and inclusion looks like, but how she even started an organization in the nursing program to address these same concerns. So before we even hop into this conversation, let that be a thought in your mind. How can you bring diversity and inclusion where you are, whether it's in the nursing community, whether it's in nursing school, or whether just in your backyard? How can you bring that conversation of including everyone and hearing different aspects of where people are coming from in life? But I'm already talking too much, so let's go ahead and hop into this conversation. Girl, now let's go ahead and hop into this conversation because it's been a long time coming. Girl, we've been trying to talk for a minute.
Definitely nurse life.
Definitely. I know, right? But this is the reality of it. So I want you to tell me, how did you get into nursing? Like, what made you choose this career path?
Yeah, definitely. So I honestly, nursing happened for me probably at the age of 17. I'm a first generation college student and nurse in my family. So I really grew up with, middle class parents. They worked very, very hard, owned their own businesses. And all they told me, because they didn't get to graduate high school or go to college, is you need to go to school and go to college. So it wasn't until probably my junior to senior year where I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure it's time to start thinking about college. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I really love people. I really love fitness and medicine. But my great grandma got sick with leukemia. So it was actually the first time I had ever stepped into a hospital, but I took care of my grandma, and I worked she was on an oncology unit and then died in hospice at a hospital that I actually currently work at right now. So full circle.
Wow.
But
Full circle.
yeah, it was when I was 17 years old that I was introduced to nurses. And I just remember there was a 25-year-old Latin nurse. She was taking care of my grandma for like a week straight. And the way that she was caring for her, the way that she interacted with my family, I was, 17, and she was a role model for me without even knowing it. I was like, I want to do what she does.
First of all, kudos to you, girlfriend, for working exactly in the same area where you actually got to experience nursing, because it usually doesn't work like that for a lot of us. We'd be like trying to struggle to get into somewhere, to get a job. So that's really good. But I like how you just said that because you saw another Latino nurse, it made you feel like, wow, I can see myself as a nurse. So did that really play a role as well? Like seeing someone who looked like you playing that role of a career that you might possibly go into?
Yeah, it definitely played a role. You find people that inspire you, and you see themselves in you, and that's inspiration at the end of the day. And there was really nobody in my family that I could interview or talk to or say like, tell me everything I need to know to get into nursing school or to do what you do. So for me, that was kind of like the stepping stone of, okay, so she can do it, I can do it. And from there, it was kind of naive because it was just like, when I have my mindset on something, I'm going to do it, and that's it. And I had no idea like what was in store for me for actually getting into nursing school and affording nursing school. And so that's where kind of the story began.
So when did you get into nursing school? Like, was it a challenge to get in? Or better yet, was it a challenge to get out? Because you know how that is. Like once you get in, it's like, whoo, and now it's like, oh my God, how am I going to graduate? Jesus, help me take the wheel.
Yeah. So I actually applied to two schools. I applied to San Francisco State and San Bernardino State, just so I can be, San Bernardino State was if I was going to stay closer to home because I'm in LA. And San Francisco was like my dream. I was close enough to be able to come home, but also move out of the house at 17, because I also graduated at 17.
I did too.
You
Look
did?
at us youngies. I did.
Yeah. So I applied to school as like pre-nursing. And then once I got to San Francisco, I picked up health education, and I realized that I actually love community-based public health and I love teaching. And I wanted to apply to the nursing program, but I think it was in my sophomore year, it was so impacted, I could not finish my prereqs for nursing. Anatomy, I tried to get 3 semesters in a row, and I remember my 3rd semester that I couldn't get anatomy. I literally went into like my counselor's office and I was like, this is the only class that I need to apply for nursing school. I need this class. And they're like, we're sorry, it's impacted. You should just pick a different major. Like this probably isn't going to work for you. Nursing is very impacted. It's very competitive. You don't have, the competitive grades and all of these things, right? So after that, I was like, oh, heck no. Like, I'm
not
getting
today,
into nursing school.
Get thee behind me.
Funny story. I was that person that went to two anatomy teachers' offices, and I begged them, and I was like, I need this class. I need to go to nursing school. Like, this is my dream. Please, I need this class. I walked into the class like 3 classes in a row, and one anatomy teacher, she ended up giving me the class.
Look at God. Look at persistency.
I did not give up.
Come on.
Yeah, I got my anatomy class. I passed my anatomy class. And what happened was I was very passionate about studying abroad. That was something that my family didn't get to experience, traveling. We never really traveled much as a family. Even though I have, my stepdad, he's actually Colombian. So he's an immigrant parent. And so he would tell me all the time about like traveling and how much he loved it. And so I really wanted to travel too. So I actually stayed and did a bachelor's in health education and community-based public health, so I can study abroad in Spain.
Wow.
And then what I did was I did some investigation, and I found out that there was an entry-level master's program that I could apply to after I did my bachelor's. So I actually changed my plan, and I go, you know what? I'm going to study abroad. I'm going to get a double bachelor's at San Francisco State. It'll make me a more competitive candidate, and then I'll apply for my entry-level master's in nursing program. So I'll still be a nurse, but now I'm going to be able to do all the things that I want to do. I'm going to study abroad. I'm going to finish my health education bachelor's, because I kind of started it not knowing if I was going to leave it for nursing. But then San Francisco is so amazing. I was involved in so many community and public health, volunteer and outreach efforts over there that I didn't want to leave them. And San Francisco, it's like this melting pot. It's so diverse. I met so many amazing people there, and they're like, no, this is going to help you like be a better nurse. You should, finish this program out, and then you can always do community nursing. And nursing, there's so many things that you can do in nursing. So for a while, I thought I was going to be a community and public health nurse.
Wow. Just the fact that you just kind of discovered your whole, like, what you wanted to do and your passion in pursuit of the nursing degree. You didn't even have it yet, and you kind of already panned out like, okay, this is what I really like. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to go into. I mean, that's remarkable. So once you finally got your foot grounded on this is my path, how was the nursing program for you when you got in? Like, was it, obviously we hear all the time how competitive and challenging it is to get in, but did you still kind of feel that same kind of competitiveness in the program, or what were some of your challenges in the program? Yeah,
definitely. So it turns out that San Francisco State had a nursing program. And so I applied. That was the first nursing program that I applied to, and I was not accepted. And I was heartbroken. But then I started looking at other programs in USF, so the University of San Francisco, and also Rush University in Chicago, Illinois. They had the entry-level master's program that I was looking at. So I applied to those other 2 places, and I got into both, right?
Oh, yay! Look at that.
So I was like, okay, I can go to San Francisco, but then get left with, another 100K in debt,
Ooh.
or I can go to Chicago. It's a nationally ranked nursing program. It's actually number 1 for clinical nurse leader. And at the time it was ranked number 11 for all nursing programs
Mm-hmm.
in the nation. And they actually wanted to give me a scholarship. I had no family in Chicago. I knew nobody in Chicago, but I ended up going to Chicago, and it was a total reality check because not only did I have to deal with, the
Cold.
competitiveness and
The cold.
the first year of nursing school, but then just add like loneliness, the freezing
Yeah.
cold weather. I'm from California, so like what a reality check for me.
Mm-hmm.
The first year of nursing school was really, really difficult for me, not only because of the weather, but I felt depressed a lot of the time. I didn't have a good community there. The first year there was only 3 of us from like the West Coast area, and in my program there's probably 40 people in my program, and there was only like 2 of us that were Latino. And
Mm.
it was a shocker for me because the community in Chicago is very Latino and Black, and so it like didn't make sense that the population like with my nursing program didn't meet that of the community. So I was kind of
Mm.
shocked, but it was hard. And also there was no Latino professors in my whole nursing program, not one.
Girl, same here. I
So
didn't have
no.
one nurse professor that looked like me that understand. And people think that that's just like, oh, it doesn't really matter. Psh, the hell it does.
It
Because when
matters.
you're trying to talk about your situation or when you're going them, because I think people fail to realize that just because you're in nursing school does not mean life stops. You're going through different kind of challenges, even relocating from one state to another. That's a big move, and not having someone that you can go and talk to, or even your professors that kind of understand your situation and kind of have that heart towards you, or just understanding your background, period. It's very difficult. Very,
Yeah,
very difficult.
definitely. I really tried to integrate myself, and I went to the fairs the first few months of school. I tried to find my little niche, my what organization am I going to join? Because at San Francisco State, like I was a resident assistant. I had the whole
Mm-hmm.
international community floor. Everybody knew me. I was the president of the cross cultural club, and at Rush, I wanted to make my name known.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to join a club and be president of something. And I remember going to the fair and not having any club that I wanted to join that I could fit in.
Mm.
I was a Latino medical student, and that was the only Latino org at the time. And I just didn't fit in with any organizations. And so the second year, I actually created my own.
I was waiting for that because I was just about to say, girl, I did the same thing at my university. I did not see what was reflective of me, and like that is amazing. And let me tell you something about just the fact that you're talking about being involved in an organization while you're in nursing school, or while you're even before you're even pursuing the nursing degree. It's almost like college is your own community, and if you're not invested in your own community that also spills out into the local community around the university, then how are you going to do that as a nurse in the real world? Like, how are you going to know the
Exactly.
kind of issues that your population or your community is going through? How can you advocate for them in the healthcare sector if you weren't even integrated in anything while you were in school? And yes, I'm not gonna lie, it was challenging, but that's a part of our job. It doesn't just start once you graduate. You're a nurse. Oh, great. I know everything about my community. I'm involved, but it
Mm-hmm.
truly is something that shapes you while you're in school and while you're in nursing school. So I'm really, really proud that you're talking so confidently and about like how you got yourself grounded. Even when you didn't see something, you created something. And
Yeah.
and tell me about the organization, girl. I want to know more.
Yeah. So basically what happened was I found another Latina nurse, and she was graduating 2 semesters ahead of me. She was actually in her second year getting ready to graduate, and I was just finishing my first year. And I looked up to her, and I had invited her to lunch one day, and we got to talking, and we just started exchanging ideas, and that's how
Mm,
the best things get
yeah.
created. But we were exchanging ideas, and she also felt the same way. And so we go, if we're feeling like this, I wonder how many other Latinos or even other people that don't find their community here if they would like some type of organization that was related to like diversity and inclusion, and
Mhm.
we didn't have anything like very general like that at our university. And so we go, let's just have a little huddle. We'll send out an email. We spoke to the nursing, director. I got the approval. She was in on like the student board already, so she already had her in. And
Wow.
I sent out to email to our whole nursing program. This is first year and second year, and I kid you not, like 10 people showed up to our little huddle, on the rooftop of our university, and we talked for hours, and it was so beautiful. I took a picture of us at the end of it
Oh.
because there was Indian, Black, gay, there was white, there was every type. It was literally a little melting pot of people
Oh.
who were like not misfits, but like they wanted a voice, and they were so excited that we had sent out this email because they wanted to talk about the things that were hard to talk about. They wanted to talk
Mm.
about racial bias, social injustice. They're like, where are these conversations, especially in medicine, because
Yes.
there's lack of research on it because it's so hard to actually, measure. And for us, we loved it. We just started talking about our experiences and our culture and how important it is for medicine, and just all the things that we're talking about. You want to see your face, you want to see somebody like you, or you want to be that
Mhm.
example for the other people that feel like there's no representation, or that they can do it too. Like you're doing it and they can do it too.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Georgie, that is amazing.
Mhm.
And that's the kind of conversation that I've been finding myself having a lot lately. Uh, that whole inclusion and diversity in healthcare. And
Mhm.
it doesn't just start when you get into the healthcare field. It truly starts when you're in college, when you're in school, when you're in the program. And from various people that I've interviewed, and even just my experience in nursing school, that was something that was challenging for me, especially people of color and from different backgrounds and nationalities. I mean, we have
Mhm.
people coming in from all around the world to a nursing program for their first time, and I just thought it was kind of interesting how, we're so competitive to get in. And then when we're in, it's already competitive as well. And there's nothing that's like bringing us together in a way where you're like, okay, this is not about nursing. Let's just get to know each other, because it can be a very depressing, sad situation when you're in a program by yourself. You don't see anything that's reflective of you or your culture or your background. You don't have anyone to talk to, and you're dealing with nursing school and studying. And a lot of women of color that I even interviewed had said that, like, that was their struggle in nursing school. They were depressed. They didn't have people that they can just hang out with, talk about, feel included, especially when it's a small nursing program and you can literally count how many men, women are in that program that are not even just Black, but just diverse, period. And you can count them on your hand, and it becomes, it's like that conversation that no one wants to have. And I'm really proud of you that you even started an organization like that. And I think it's really good that we have this kind of conversation so that, other nursing students that find themselves in the kind of shoes that you're in, or the shoes that I was in, they can form an organization or a networking or a group in their nursing program where they can just have conversations like this, because it
Yeah.
really is more than just your degree. It's your life, it's your community, it's the world.
Yeah, and there's just so many great conversations to have within the nursing community because, like, I'll trip out on this. Even my roommates, they ended up being my roommates, and um, they had roles in our organization. But one of them, he was Indian and gay, hadn't came out to his parents yet, and they were just like, "Why are you a nurse? You should be a doctor." And
Girl, yes.
my
Ugh.
other friend, she was Arabic and sorry, Syrian, and her parents also wanted her to be a doctor, but
Mm-hmm.
she was having a hard time because her parents were giving her the most trouble about leaving the house. She needs to be, with the family. She needs to do why didn't she go to UCLA? But Rush is also a nationally ranked nursing program. So people were just, what I found was that people were just trying to find their family because something happened back home, or they had been through something, and they were just trying to like survive. For me,
Yes.
I was trying to survive. I had no
Mm-hmm.
idea what I was doing in nursing school. Like, I just knew that I got there and I was going to finish. I don't know how, but I was going to make do, and I wanted to do it happy. And I know that my happy place is around people who are positive and people that are passionate and people that have a voice and have a bigger cause. And I learned that at San Francisco when I did community health, and the impact and the influence that having a positive community in anything, in any work environment, in any school, in any, in whatever you do, you want people to feel loved, appreciated, and those are the people that are going to work harder in their job and have more success.
Exactly. 100%. I agree. Because that's what got me through nursing school. Funny enough, I don't even know how I did it. I don't know how I was a part of so many organizations. I ran organizations. I was working and tutoring, and I was doing like 500 different jobs and positions. But that, especially for us, like people who are active, clearly me and you are very active.
Yeah.
Like that's what
Yes,
keeps us going. That's our coffee. That's our fuel. That's our, when people are excited, like there's no way I would have literally graduated from nursing school if I didn't have a solid group of friends, and if I didn't have ways to giving back and feeling like I was, impacting my my campus and my community. It was a big deal for me, and I think that's what helped me through nursing school. And it's funny because we can tie those two in together, because that's how I feel about nursing in my career. If you're not involved in something, if you're not like truly pursuing something that brings you happiness or networking, knowing community, it can be really hard working as a nurse, and you can get burnt out so much more easier if you don't have another outlet. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So how was that transition for you when you graduated to now becoming a nurse? Because you've been a nurse for like over a year plus now. So how was that experience, that first year for you, and that transition?
Yeah, definitely. So I had made the decision to move back home from Chicago. I went over there for just school, and I actually wanted to stay there for another year and work, but my parents had separated. And so I wanted to kind of come home and take my NCLEX here and really start working like in California to be closer to my family. And what happened was I applied to actually the same hospital that my great grandma had passed away at, and that I had interned at during undergrad. And so it was a med-surg oncology unit at a community hospital. And like I said, I did my bachelor's in community health. So I really wanted to like be in the community, in the trenches. I got a job at an LA County hospital that I'm still at. It's a very, very hard unit. And I'm telling you, girl, there's some shifts where I cry in my car after work because it's just such a hard day. But the environment that I work in is very healthy. The people that I work with, I love to work with, and that's really what keeps me there. So, and I had done something on social media one time where I did a poll, and I go, what's your favorite part about being a nurse? Like, what's your favorite part about being a nurse? Over 50% of the people had said my coworkers, that I work with,
yeah,
my coworkers, so it just shows like how important it is to have a healthy working environment, and how important that is to, keeping your job, because there's such a high turnover rate with nurses in first year.
Like,
And
I think last time I looked at statistics, it was like over 60% within the first
that's
year.
so bad.
It's
That is so
terrible. And that's
high.
like new graduates, and they're leaving not only just the bedside, they're leaving the profession. And to
Yeah.
me, I thought that was like, and look, if you asked me after my second year of nursing, I was in that 60%. I was literally about to hang up. I was like, no, you know what? This is a wrap. And the reason being, to be completely honest and transparent with you, I felt like I didn't really know about side hustles at that time, in a way. I thought that this is my career. You graduate, oh, I'm a doctor, you're a doctor. Or graduate, you're a dentist, you're a dentist. You're a nurse, you're a nurse. And I thought, and all I knew was nursing bedside, and then of course public health, but we didn't really do a lot of that in nursing schools, like one semester, and that was it, which I enjoyed, but I felt like there was so much more that wasn't shown. So I always thought nursing was just bam, bedside, 12 hours, all this, but I had all these other creative talents about me that I wanted to do. I love networking. I love people. I love events. I love writing plays. I just had so many things, but I just felt like, could I do all that and still be a nurse? And then being a nurse, it just felt like wow, 14 hours. And I've been on my feet and I'm tired and we're always short staffed and there's some bullying
Yeah.
going on. And, I always felt like, is this all nursing had to offer? And I'm so grateful I didn't hang up the coat. I'm grateful that I actually got to experience nursing administratively, experience nursing in organizations, and realize that no, there's truly a vast experience in nursing, but it's just not being captured, shared, or talked about. And I think we go into it thinking like, man, I'm a nurse now, awesome work hours, but then we don't know all the other stuff that comes along with it. And we
Mm-hmm.
don't really know where our future stands in it. Like you could
Yeah,
be a tech guru and you want to be a nurse, but you think that you only have to work the bedside, which isn't true. You can freaking work for Facebook if you wanted to as a nurse.
definitely. I'm so happy that I discovered that my first year as a nurse, because I I feel like I was really naive like through the whole process.
Girl, we were all nice.
No, this is me though. This is me, because I'm the first nurse in my family. So I go, okay, I'm gonna get a job in California. California is the highest paid nurses. I'm gonna get a house my first year. I'm gonna pay off all my student debt because I'm gonna get over
Mhm.
80K my first year. Um, I'm gonna get an apartment. I'm gonna get a new car. I'm gonna help my parents retire. I'm gonna pay for their bills. And then I get my first check and I see all the taxes, like California taxes that come out of it.
Oh
I
Lord.
realized by the third month I was living paycheck to paycheck. And I was like, oh, mm-mm.
And let me be honest with you, I'm from Texas. So living out here in California these last year or two,
Mhm.
y'all taxes is disrespectful. Like I said, well, what do you want me to eat with? State of California? Like what is this?
I know. It was
That's a
so
that's a
funny. It
shock,
was
but that's
it
the
was a shock.
reality. That was the
Hmm.
reality. So how did you adjust to that? Like did that
Yes.
change your plan and your thoughts of what your goals were and what you wanted to do, now the reality of what you can do with your check?
Yeah. So luckily for me, I'm go, go, go. And I like to do a little bit of everything. So for me, I was like, okay, I work 3 days a week. I have 4 days off. What am I going to do? So I started my Nurse Georgie account. That was kind of going to be my platform to share my story throughout my first year as a nurse. I hadn't had one during nursing school, so I wanted to definitely share my story as a first year nurse. I wanted to be a voice for the Latino community because we're
Mhm.
still, between 4 and 7% of all nurses are
Mhm.
Latino, even less percent for master's educated. So I'm like at that 4.5%. And for me, that was important. That gives me a niche. And also, I want to be there for somebody who is looking for a Latina nurse that, didn't have a lot of money going into nursing school, survived nursing school. Yes, I failed my NCLEX. Yes, I failed the last class before I needed to graduate. I was not able to graduate with my cohort. That was devastating for me. But
Girl, join the club.
yeah,
So did I.
at the end
Mm.
of it, I was awarded with a like great honor. It was a diversity and inclusion award when I graduated, and you know, it was important for me that Rudy, my diversity and inclusion organization, it's actually one of the biggest organizations on campus right now because
Whoa, look at
it
you.
includes students, staff, and faculty.
That's a legacy, girl.
Yeah, so I knew I was going to do something else besides nursing. So what I did was because I love fitness and health, I created a community, and this was going to be a community for healthcare professionals. It started off as nurses only, but then I broadened it to be inclusive.
Mhm.
But it was basically for healthcare professionals to have a working out community. And in order to do this, I wanted to create like apparel. So I started making Nurse Life caps. They were a hit. Part of my campaign, with my first campaign that I ever started on social media, was called the Nurse Life Cap campaign.
Mhm.
And basically what I wanted people to do was write a post after they had purchased a Nurse Life cap about why diversity was important to them in like their nurse life.
Mm.
And so, this whole cap campaign started opening up a bunch of stories, and it was amazing. And so after that was so successful, I sold 300 caps in like 2 months. I was
That's
like,
so
wow,
awesome.
this is a business.
Yeah.
What else can I do with this?
Side hustle.
I started making shirts like the cool nurses here, squat scrub sangria, and like before you knew it, I was like had my own little production going in my garage. It was great. And I got like a DBA doing business as New Goals Apparel, I named it, because I'm all about making new goals and setting new goals for yourself, in fitness and in medicine and in confidence. So like the kind of theme was fitness, medicine, and confidence for New Goals Apparel. So yeah, that's been going on for like less than a year. And then after that, so that was my first side hustle. And then my second side hustle happened like kind of like this conversation. I was pretty shocked at being like overworked, underpaid. And I was kind of scared because I'm going to be honest, I graduated with $130K in debt.
Yeah.
And I go, how am I ever going to pay off this debt? Living paycheck to paycheck. I don't want to have 2 full-time nursing jobs like a lot of nurses on my unit. Like, that's not the life that I want. I want financial freedom, but I also want freedom of time.
Yeah.
Things that I love and that I'm passionate about. But we also have to make money and pay off our loans, and we have to live. So I actually was approached by one of my longtime friends from high school who was actually teaching nurses how to save and invest money. And there was an opportunity for me to work with him as a referral and send him clients. And then I ended up picking it up. And now I'm teaching, I'm like a financial coach, teaching nurses financial education, how to save money. And I'm loving it. This whole model is like kind of like real estate with an agent and a broker. And oh my gosh, girl, I got a 5-year plan with this business. I love it. I'm matching my nursing income with this business, and it's the perfect mix for me to be able to keep my nursing job, probably go part-time, and then be able to do this, have a community, be a leader, be a voice, have a platform. So, and then I still have my NG apparel going on too. So I'm doing a little bit of everything right now.
Girl, you are a sangria. Like, you got all the different flavors in that drink, honey. Yes.
I like it all.
But what I love about you sharing that is that's really the reality of us millennials. You know, we want to experience all of life. We don't just want to be on one straight path. We want to like, oh, I want to go here. I want to go here. I want to see what this is like. Because honestly, I think I get annoyed when people are like, oh, you're just a nurse. No, I'm not. I'm not just a nurse. You know, you are a nurse. You're a leader. You are an entrepreneur. You're a side hustle chick. You are a sangria. You know what I mean?
We can be both.
You can be both. You can be both, which I love that campaign, you know, and it's true. You can be both. It's not just one straight shot. So, you know, I think what is so inspiring about your story is just hearing your background, where you started, how you got from, you know, your parents immigrating to this country and then you being the first one going to school and pretty much leaving a legacy on your campus to now, you know, being so involved in so many different things. How has that opened your eyes on the look of nursing? Has it changed what you first initially thought nursing was? Like, oh, nursing is just a career field. More, it seems like nursing is your lifestyle, which it should be for all of us, but it sounds more like nursing is your lifestyle.
Yeah, definitely. I love nurses. Honestly, if nursing was the stepping stone to whatever, I will always be a nurse. In my heart, I am a nurse, but we are such a breed, like, and there's so many different kinds of nurses, and I just love it. I love it. I love it. I think they are the perfect breed for entrepreneurship too. We work 3 days a week. We understand how to like work. I was just talking to one of my partners in my finance business, because he's a nurse. He's an ICU nurse from UCLA today. But we were talking about trust and building trust and how important that is, and like, you know, new clients and stuff. And he says nurses are perfect. We have a minute to gain trust with our patients. The minute we go in their room, like, that's our job, you know, and then to have that trust with them throughout that whole day, or, you know, however long they're at the hospital. And we just got in such a good conversation about nurses and how amazing we are and what we do. Really, we work so much and we love our job, but it makes me sad when you know, like short staffing, and when we have to be stressed out at our job, or there's nurse bullying, when it does not need to be like that. If we can create like a very healthy community, we could get rid of all of this high turnover rate and just all of that nonsense, because nursing is a really wonderful job, but we also need to be taken care of because we go through a lot, like mentally, physically,
Emotionally.
It's a strenuous job. And my dad, we have conversations at dinner sometimes, and he's just like, Mija, are you okay? Like, like I pray about you. I'm worried about you, like the things that you kind of go throughout the day. And sometimes we have this like desensitization where we have to come home and it's like it never happened, and then
Girl,
clock in,
yes.
clock out mentality. But
Yeah.
I don't want that. I want to be excited to go into to work every day, ready to change somebody's life. And it makes me feel so sad when I don't want to be at work because my head's hurting me from being stressed out. I don't have any help. Everyone, and I don't have help not because people don't want to help me, but everyone is like their load is as heavy as mine.
Yeah.
Everyone's crashing and burning. You have patients yelling at you because they're upset and you can't do anything about it. Like, you're just trying your hardest. And like, at the end of the day, it's like you love your job, you don't want to quit, but you still have to, you need your sanity, and you still have to pay your bills,
Hello? And it's girl, as you're talking, I'm like flashing back to my bedside days, and that's truly how I felt. But I also felt like I as much as we were doing at the bedside, and as much as I loved doing, I loved kids. So I was in pediatrics, I did mother baby, I did MICU. I just loved being around moms and babies and kids. And as much as I loved it, as much as you truly give out your heart and soul when you're at work, and sometimes it is clockwork. When you got 8 patients, you really don't even get that moment to even build trust. You're like, okay, what you need? You pain free? You good free? Okay, gotta go. Bye. It's almost like you're going and going and going. But even through all that, feeling drained and feeling how I felt during my first 2 years, I actually still felt inadequate. I felt like I could be doing so much more. I feel like I wasn't full. I'm just working. I wasn't full. And what I found fullness in was actually finding out that as a nurse, I could actually be in administration and help my other colleagues by being that nurse at the table, by being in committees and speaking up, by being involved in the hospital. And that's what kind of made that life of nursing come back to me. So as much as I miss patient care, I knew that I can do so much more in the position I was in. And I think that's also something that as nurses, we don't really talk about that. Like, do you feel full? Do you feel like you're truly getting what you can get out of this profession? Because I don't want people just to think it's a job. Nursing is your life. I'm not going to lie. Somebody got in a car accident. If we're driving by, we got to pull over and save your life. Like, it's our life. It's who we are. So to know that you're going to work and you're not feeling full, but you're feeling drained and stressed and overwhelmed, I feel like that's where we need more of this unity, this networking that you talk about. And of course, there's so many now. Before, I'm not going to lie, like 5 years ago, I never knew about all these, like, Nurse Mo and all these different events that go on. No, I didn't know about that. No one was doing that. Everyone just thought nursing, go to work. No one thought that we needed, a moment. We need to have a circle, a clique, a group, a survival skill. We had other things that we wanted something that we can pour back into us is pretty much what I'm trying to say.
Definitely.
And I'm seeing that a lot more. And I wish that nursing schools started implementing that more. You know what I mean?
Definitely. Yeah. The real day-to-day, this is what you will go through or you may go through, and let's figure out how we're going to handle these really hard, bad, emotionally draining days.
Yes. And not just at the bedside. I find it funny because it's really hard for me to even have some of this conversation for some of us who aren't at the bedside, for some of us who are in administration, some of us who are in quality and process improvement and compliance and all the people that making the hospital and health plans run pretty much, who are nurses. But when you're a millennial and you're diverse in a profession that was predominantly white and older, it's harder to have your voice heard. And you get challenged a lot, and I feel like that's also a discussion that isn't heard. You go from bedside to administration because you want to do more, or you just want to change your schedule. I don't know. Everybody goes for different reasons. But for me, it was to make change. But then I realized that the grass is not always greener on the other side. People always think like, oh, she got an office, or especially when I was a nurse, I used to think anybody who was in administration, y'all living y'all best life while we're out here struggling on the floor and nobody want to give us extra help. And then you get there and you're part of the conversation. You're like, oh, dear God, what? Can I just
Yeah.
go back to my 3 days a week?
Yeah, definitely. I've definitely sat at the table a handful of times, and it's hard. It's hard when you're the only one there who wants to talk about like diversity or change
Mm-hmm.
something, and people do not want to change the way that it, and then their answer is it's always been this way.
Oh, that's the most annoying. Oh, girl, you should see my lips, like a black mama's lips, like, ooh, go on there.
Oh yeah, and that's why it's so important to have different heads at the table.
It's so important.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, we've been talking about all the highlights and it's amazing, yes. But I really want you to share the challenges because an outsider looking in would probably think, especially if I'm in nursing school or if I failed, if I'm on your page, I'd be like, oh, wow, she must be popular. She got 20 million people following her. She got she's doing all these side hustles. She's loving her best life. But it didn't start that way. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? What were some of your challenges getting to where you are and just even starting the diversity group in nursing school or just starting your own branding? Because you're pretty much branding the lifestyle of a nurse and you're portraying it in such a beautiful way, which we need more of that. But what were the challenges behind the scenes that people don't know? You didn't start with just 20K or 20 million followers. You built yourself
Mm-hmm.
and you built your brand. You built these apparels that you're putting out. You built these organizations that are leaving legacies. But what were some of your challenges and how did you even get started in this pathway?
Yeah, definitely. I would say it's over. There's so many challenges. I don't even know where to start. But I mean, I have a
Just a
hard
few,
time. Yeah,
because we know it's a lot.
I want to like go way, way back to just my parents. My parents really instilling in me that I can do whatever I want to do. I heard no a lot of times growing up with my dad. My stepdad was very strict, but I always found a way. Like I always found a way. If he said no, but what about this way? But what about this way? I've always been like very curious and always trying to, if I don't kind of get what I want, but what about this perspective? Like the art of persuasion almost, And so that was me. I was relentless. Like when I couldn't get into anatomy, I was there showing up at the door. Like it had to happen. When I was in nursing school and 79% is a fail, I was sweating bullets. Like every test that I took, I had a lot of stress anxiety, testing anxiety. I'm not a good test taker.
Me neither.
I'm dyslexic, so
Me too.
apology. Oh my goodness, I would cry because I couldn't even say the names of some of these drugs.
Girl, me
I would
too.
get mixed up, and it would be very difficult because my roommate, genius, like photographic memory, and I was like, I can't study with you. Like this is too difficult.
I know.
And so many times I got 81% or 80%, and I have so many people that message me on Instagram like, I'm not passing this class. How did you study the best? Like, what is the best way to study? And I tell them all the time, like, what helped me the most is when I was stressed out and I let everything get to me, it all started piling. But when you have to go back to the basics, getting good sleep, like taking your little breaks, eating healthy, exercising, and like starting over and really having that self-awareness, like, how do you study? How do you retain the most? What are your weaknesses?
Learn how you learn.
Learn how you learn. Everyone is different.
To learn how to learn.
What works for me might not work for you. So go back to the basics, keep your body, your mind sound and healthy. Have that support. Support is so, so, so important. Every time something bad happened to me, I might not have had my, people in Chicago, but I gave a phone call to my mom, who makes me feel, on top of the world every time, or to my best friend who was going through the same thing in San Francisco. She had just started her audiology program. So we were I find people who will relate to me, and I kept myself sound that way. So, yeah, it was a struggle, like trying to pass classes every time. I wasn't the best student. I always tell everybody, like, school was very, very hard for me. I had to learn how to be a student because I excel in other areas. I excel in, like networking and community and people. I'm very good with people, but then when it comes down to like proctored test taking, I start
Yeah,
sweating,
I hate
my heart
that.
starts palpitating. The first time I took my NCLEX, oh my gosh, I went to the bathroom like 10 times right before my test. I ended up taking all 6 hours. I think my test timed out on me. I blacked out during the test.
Oh my God.
Like I think there was like 30 minutes where I didn't answer what I was stuck on a question.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was just game over for me. And that happens sometimes when I public speak. Like I'm thinking too ahead of myself and I black out.
And then you're like, oh, wait, hey, y'all. So sorry. Give me a minute. Let me get me and myself are having a moment. Give me a second.
Let me like take a deep breath and rewind really quick. I just have that self-awareness where this is me. These like when you understand yourself, you can better prepare for these kinds of disastrous scenarios, right?
You really can. You're like, look, this is who I am. And that was how I excelled, I think, kind of. I'm laughing because I'm still like, girl, shut up. But the second time I got into nursing school, I think that's how I finally got through it. I had to accept this is how I learn. I can't learn like I have to study 3 or 4 weeks in advance. I have to have flashcards. I have to do a game with it. I have to have all the colors of the highlighters in the world. I have to write a planner. That's just how my brain worked, I have to touch it. I have to see it. I have to feel it. I want to do it. When I'm hands-on, then I remember. But it took that second attempt for me to realize, okay, this is what works for me. I'm not going to be like Betty Jo over there that can read the night before the test and then get an A. I want to slap her, but look, not everyone is skilled like that. You know what I mean?
People were like, Georgie, you were in the library for 8 hours, they're there for like 2-3 hours. I would spend 8-12-hour shifts there. Like, if anything, I had endurance. I was like,
girl,
no, I'm going to study all day. Don't talk to me. I will take my breaks. But yeah, so I mean, I'm very transparent. I did not pass my NCLEX the first time.
Me too.
I had a lot of stuff going on at the time. I wasn't mentally ready. I had a lot of personal things going on. I had just moved back home. I thought I could, take it as soon as I got back, and I wasn't ready to take it. And so I definitely talk about that a lot. And then my first year in nursing, it was really hard. Like, I think I'm trying to think what I wasn't most prepared for, because there's just like so many things that we go through in nursing. But I don't think I was prepared for the families with my patients. There was a lot of chemo on my unit.
Yeah.
And so no one, like, they tell you touch, and when you don't know what to say, don't say anything. But when you have a family,
which I find that to be a stupid advice, because it's like, we're human. How do you expect me not to say something? Like, I'm just gonna sit there and stare at you. So sorry, I need to go and chart. I apologize. Like, what do you want me? Like, what the heck? You know what I mean?
I'll never forget. I did a new grad program at my hospital, and I think it was on my second shift with one of the nurses, who's actually one of my really good friends on the unit now. But I was precepting her, and there was a husband and wife, and the wife had ovarian cancer, and she was just not having it this day. She was sweaty, she was tired, she was exhausted, she was not feeling good, and the husband was tired. He had been there every day, and he went home to sleep for like 2 hours. And she told my nurse, "You need to call my husband. I need him right now." And so she called the husband. The husband showed up. He hadn't even like got any sleep, and then the minute he gets there, the wife starts telling him, like, "You don't support me," or "You just want me to die," and like just all of these horrible things. And my nurse, it was crazy how she was a magician at the time, but she was really like a counselor to these two. Like, she was doing couples therapy. She goes, "Okay, she was talking to the patient, and she's like, "Your husband loves you. He's been here for you. He supports you. Like, let's, keep this healthy." And then she started talking to the husband, like, "Your wife is just tired right now. She's going through a lot." And it was just so crazy. And I was just like, wow. At that point, I was like, we do so much. And
girl. And that's why we say we're underpaid, because truly we're not just like physically there to support you. We are emotionally there. We are mentally there. I mean, I remember as a pediatric nurse, I had a patient that was from out this country, had this really, really big surgery, but their parents never spent the night there with him. And he was like
Mhm.
5. And
Oh,
I remember my nights when I had this beautiful little boy as my patient, my nights were spent in his bed, helping him go to
mhm.
sleep, reading a book to him. Like it was like that was just the norm, like, okay, you got to do what you got to do for your patients. So there will be moments where you will see a nurse right next to a patient in the bed helping a child go to sleep. Or, I've had moms that just had a baby and they're going crazy because they have not slept. And dad is going crazy. The baby is screaming. So it's like you got to tuck the mom, tuck the daddy, take the baby out, and just get
Oh yeah.
everybody go to sleep. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And that's just the sacrifices we do as a nurse. But these are the stories that we don't hear and we don't really know that happens, unless you're like all experienced and stuff. You probably see a Johnson & Johnson commercial. Then you're like, oh, that's what nurses do. It's cute. But like when we're in nursing school, I had no idea that it's not just about the charting, giving the meds. It really is that human factor. You're
Yeah.
going to be in place in those situations.
I remember, oh, you made me remember. There was one day where I was super emotional and I got in my car, started crying, and I recorded it. I did like a 2-minute video about this shift that I had, and I got so many amazing messages about like, these are the things we don't talk about. I wish we talked
Yes.
about these things more. Like I had a similar situation and I was so emotional after the shift. It was just too relatable. This patient that I had that was my age with her mom who was sick, who was dying.
Mm.
I just got in my car and I bawled. I called my mom right after. I told her I loved her. It was like one of those situations, but this is what I love about nursing, and this is what I wish that we talked about more. Like,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, it's a really, really tough job, and nurses, we go through a lot and we're here for each other. And that's why I get so upset when I hear about like bullying and, just
The retention, I mean, the turnover rate,
I
and it's
wish it
like,
wasn't like
wow.
that. We work really hard to finish school, and then
Right?
people end up finding out that they can work, a less stressful job for maybe a little less and be happier. And we just need to create a more healthy environment for our nurse fam.
We really do. And I think having conversations like this and sharing our experience is what's going to help promote that. And I'm so fortunate and blessed and honored to meet so many amazing nurses that are feeling the same passion and drive that I have for our community, like you have for your community. And it inspires me. And I love having you guys on my platform. And I love people like, especially even new grads, and not even new grads, high school students, people who don't know that nursing is even a career option for them, or don't think they can get into it, or haven't seen a reflection of their own in that field. Seeing and hearing from women like me and you and other nurses that are making an impact truly is going to change that culture. So what I
Definitely.
want to do as we, kind of wrap up our conversation, I want you to, for a nurse out there who probably is like, yes, this is the conversation that I've always been wanting to hear. What kind of advice and steps would you give a nursing student or a nurse who actually wants to start an organization or start a diversity club? What steps did you take that could benefit that nursing student or that nurse who wants to bring a diversity chapter or organization to their campus or to their hospital? What kind of steps and advice could you give them?
So find your key stakeholders. Find people who believe in the same mission as you do. So just repeat and do everything I did. Okay. So, um, reach out to the nursing faculty and find the person that's going to support you in this new endeavor. Um, I found a nurse who I really looked up to. She was actually a public health professor, Black woman she was very, very active in the public health community. And she knew that I wanted to increase the retention and recruitment of more diverse faculty and staff. And she's in public health. So that's what they do in public health. So I found my key stakeholder. I found a professor who believed in me. And so once I did that, then I started finding the people who also had similar vision, but also could contribute to it. And what
Mm-hmm.
made this organization so great is that there was so much diversity, there was so much input from different people. And so find a good professor that believes in you if you're starting an organization from scratch. Find people who are going to support you in this organization, or who are going to be key leaders, and take positions, because, you know, you need like the president, vice president, the treasurer, you need all of these positions to be filled. And then hold events that support that organization. So we had roundtables, we had article clubs, we had big events. I actually got sponsorships from different faculty members. We had a huge mixer of over 100 people, and they sponsored all the food and drink because they believed in our mission.
Mm-hmm.
And so once you find people who believe in your mission, I kid you not, people will start throwing money at you, because these people want to support you, but they don't want to do the work.
Okay.
So
that's literally it.
You have to do the work and give them some recognition. I will put your sponsorship on the, you know,
on a shirt, on a bullet board,
wherever you want. But this is something that I'm passionate about, so I'm going to go all in. And this is something that I'm experiencing a little bit of right now, that I also want to let people know is, don't spread yourself too thin. When I was in nursing school, it was nursing school for me, and also Rudy. But I was so invested in Rudy, that might have contributed to that last class that I was unable to pass, because I was obsessed with my organization, and I put more effort in that than my last class.
Yeah.
And I find that right now with my with me doing, you know, multiple things, there's some times where I'm so focused on my apparel line, or my finance job, or, you know, my nursing, and doing my, you know, next chemo certification, that I let the other things go. So if you are going to be that president or start that organization, make sure that you are going to give 100% of your time into that, because people that are believing in you are going to want you to give 100%. And this goes for people that are going to invest in you too. If you want to, you know, I have a plan down the road to get an investor for NG Apparel, but I know that they're going to want me to, you know, spend 100% of my time on that, because they want to see return in their investment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, those are my recommendations. And it's so fun to start an organization on campus. It made me such a more well-rounded person, and it just kind of opened my eyes to starting anything. Like once I got that done, I was like, oh, I can do anything type thing. And I see that at my hospital. It's so funny because I'm at a community hospital, but I see things on my unit where I'm just like, oh, this needs to change, or I could change this, or this needs to be done better, you know? And it just changes who you are. It's really funny. And then once you find out at a community hospital you don't have resources or funding to do it, and it's a little harder to get funding at a community hospital.
Then you get real creative.
So yeah, it's
and I wanted to piggyback off of what you were saying about like how in college, I'm not gonna lie, in college it's really easy to start an organization as long as you go to those key people. And I remember when I really brought back NAACP at our local university, and I didn't just only reach out to my university, I reached out to the local organizations like Walmart and Albertsons, all these other big, Coca-Cola, all these other big companies. When they know that this is what your organization is representing, this is what you're trying to do, they got quotas that they got to meet every year on giving out to charities or to events and stuff like that. So they're looking forward to even sponsoring, whether it's drinks, food, all that stuff. And I remember we got so many sponsorships just from rebranding and bringing an organization back on campus. And I wouldn't even just stop there. I know a lot of times just hearing me and you, people are like, oh yeah, that sounds fun, but it seems like a lot of work. I'm not gonna lie, it was a lot of work, but when you have a good team, when you have people who are just as inspired as you, just as full of power and ready to go wherever you want to go, especially as a leader, you are going to have those people that will want to jump in and get their hands dirty too. So it's not all going to fall on your shoulders. You really need to make sure you have a really good team. And I do want to encourage new grads. Like, I kid y'all not, I want people to be more grassrooted in the national organizations. Everybody wants to go all these big conferences, but you're not even a part of a local organization. There's no local chapter. You don't know what's going on in your backyard. My first year, I was the president of the Society of Pediatric Nurses in Dallas. I didn't even know I could do that, but I did. And it was amazing, you know, and I used the same experience I learned in college to my community. And I was rooting for nurses and trying to get us to do more networking events. And you learn a lot more. you realize that when nurses are off, they really don't want to go to a meeting. So you got to figure out, how can I bring the meeting to y'all? How can I, you start getting real creative, because now it's like, wow, it's not like college where everybody shows up because it's going to be free food. You ain't got nothing going on at night anyway. Or, your friends are going to be there. Now you're in the workforce environment, and you got to be creative. You got to know your audience. You got to be more impactful in the community. Okay, let's not just have a networking event. How about, we know that this local children's school has a shortage on nurse, and they're about to have an immunizations, and they're going to be so swamped. How about we do an event at that school helping that local nurse get all these immunizations done for kids? That's an event right there. So it's really knowing your environment and getting involved and really making that impact. And that's the starting foundation of building your brand, building who you are as a nurse. What are you doing in your community? You know what I mean?
It's so important. Yeah, if you're Latino and you're listening, there's a National Association of Hispanic Nurses, and they have a national chapter, but they also have local chapters everywhere.
Yes.
So that's something that is great. I just went to one of their events a couple months ago, and it was so awesome. Oh my gosh, they had cultural dancing there. They had Latino, like so much Hispanic food, and there was people in the LA, it was the LA County chapter, and just listening to all the stories, oh my gosh, I was like, I'm going to be the president of that one day. It was
That's so
awesome. And they send me emails of like local events and it's so important. So you're definitely right on that. Get involved so you can learn how an organization functions first, because the reason I was able to start an organization is because in college I was in an organization and also helped run one. So it wasn't like I was starting, I didn't know where I was starting from. Same thing with my apparel business. Like I had experience with my dad running his own, entrepreneurship and apparel line too. So there was things there where I had experience in them already.
Or even just joining a committee at your hospital. That's an easy way to get your foot in the door, easy way to understand how things go. I remember you can create anything in the hospital as long as they ain't called customers. You can create a celebration committee. We need more morale. Can we have a committee where we're celebrating people's achievements, birthdays, fun events? That alone will be like, okay, nurses will come around anywhere on the unit if you got food and you ready to network. You know what I mean? So even something small like that, just a celebration committee, if you just want to do something once a month with your staff, with your coworkers, that is a great way to start. And it could be free. Potluck's always free. But Georgie, I really want you to like wrap up this conversation by telling and giving inspiration, especially to nurses that have been in our shoes with failing, with feeling burnt out, with not knowing what's going to be the next step for them, whether in nursing school or whether on the unit or whether they're just embarking on an entrepreneur journey. What kind of advice or encouragement can you give them to keep going and not give up?
Yeah. I just want to let all of you guys know that you are strong, you are brave, you are intelligent, beautiful, powerful, and don't let anyone ever tell you otherwise. Ask questions. If you do not understand anything or you want to learn more, always ask. There's people out there that want to help you. You'll never know, or you'll never be able to get that mentorship if you never ask. It never hurts to ask. And also just be confident. Be confident in yourself and your skills and your ability. Confidence is contagious. Energy is contagious. Positivity is contagious. One thing that people say that I do well is just my charisma. Like, I'm just genuinely excited about new opportunities and new life and meeting new people. And I love my platform on social media because I get to meet people like you, Toby, and entrepreneurs and nurse entrepreneurs that have stories to share. And you're doing this because you generally want to support and help nurses. And those are the people that I want to be around. Those are the things that I believe in. And for all of you nurses out there, nursing is an amazing job. It's a very hard job, but it's a very special job. And I don't want to see, nurse turnover anymore. We need to fix that. And I want us to all do that together. So you guys rock.
I hope you've enjoyed today's podcast episode. There were so many gems dropped. But let's be honest, who got time to replay, pause, and write down all that information shared? Shoo, I know I don't. But don't worry, I got you. Download TobiTalks app on Google Play for nursing resources, definitions, and so much more that were mentioned on today's episode. TobiTalk app features show notes that timelines the conversation and lets you click directly to the resource or definition. And it even lets you bookmark the gem for later. Listen, we're too busy learning how to save lives or even saving lives as nurses to deal with a replay button. TobiTalk app is your one-stop shop for podcast episodes and show notes. For more on TobiTalks, like the blogs and videos, go to my website at www.TobiTalks.com. And you know I love to hear from you guys, so feel free to slide into my DMs on IG or Facebook and hit me up through email. That's TobiTalks@TobiTalks.com. Again, that's TobiTalks@TobiTalks.com. Till next time, I'll be talking to you soon.